I died. That's right. A cardiac arrest at work took me to a place I never imagined. And there, something incredible and frightening happened. Jesus showed me how long the soul really remains on earth after death. What I saw completely changed everything I thought about life and death. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to your soul after you leave? How many times have you wondered if somehow you could change the course of your destiny if you could better understand what happens after life? This revelation I received may be the key for you to understand the true purpose of your life. I know how you feel. That fear, the constant doubt about what comes next. I felt it too. But what Jesus showed me will make you rethink everything. I am here to share this experience with you, so that unlike so many, you don't live life without truly understanding your true purpose. Because after knowing what I know, you won't be able to live the same way anymore. I want to help you understand all this now, before it's too late. Before continuing with this incredible story, I have a quick request. Check if you are subscribed so you don't miss any details of this transformative journey. Oh, and don't forget to leave your like and comment where you are watching from. Let's get to the story. My name is Jose Mauricio. Let's get to the story. I am 47 years old. I work as a laborer, and until recently, I led a common life. I would wake up, grab my coffee with bread, give my wife a quick kiss, and rush to work. That was just another normal day, or at least I thought it was. I was in the middle of my shift, handling some tools when I felt something strange. First, a slight dizziness, as if the world was spinning slowly. Then, my chest tightened. It was as if someone had turned off a switch inside me. Everything went dark for a second, and then the most unbelievable thing happened. Suddenly I was standing there looking at my own body on the ground. Yes, you heard right. I saw my body lying in the middle of the factory. My colleagues ran to me shouting, trying to help me. Shouting, trying to help me. Someone started chest compressions. Another called for help. And I was there beside them watching everything. But no one could see me. It was a huge shock. I tried to speak, tried to touch people, but it was as if I were made of wind. I felt no pain, no weight, just a mix of confusion and amazement. At that moment, I realized that something very serious was happening. I was not inside my body, and as impossible as it seemed, I was still alive, in a different way. But I was there conscious. And it was just the beginning. I still felt like I was floating, light, as if I'd left a huge weight behind. There was no more noise from machines, nor the smell of oil from the factory. Just silence, a different silence, the kind of silence that seems to talk to you from within. And then a light appeared. It didn't come from above, nor from any specific place. It was simply there, and shone in a way I had never seen. It was a light that warmed, that calmed, that made my heart beat slower. I felt it calling me, and I gradually perceived a presence. Someone was approaching, and when I finally saw who it was, my legs would have trembled if I still had a body at that moment. It was Jesus. Yes, Jesus Christ, the one I had heard about since I was a child, but who over time had been stored in a forgotten corner of my heart. He was there before me, not of flesh and bone. It was more than that. It was as if he were made of light. But a living, conscious light, full of love. Jesus looked at me like no one had ever looked at me before. With a gaze that pierced everything. My flaws, my fears, my hardness. And yet, he looked at me with tenderness, with a love so strong that it melted me inside. I started to cry. I cried like a lost child who finds their father after a long time. And even without saying anything with his mouth, Jesus spoke to me directly in the heart. Jose, you forgot who you are, but I have not forgotten. That touched me like a truth I had always known but had buried deep in my soul. I lived so many years worried about working, paying bills, surviving that I forgot the most important part, living with the heart. And at that moment before Jesus, I realized that this experience was not just a scare. It was an invitation, a call to remember, to awaken. Still, there before Jesus, something strange began to happen. I couldn't explain it right, but it seemed that time had stopped. Or maybe it was I who was going to another place, a place that didn't have the smell of the factory, nor the noise of the street, just a feeling of deep peace, as if everything was right in its rightful place. Jesus made a gesture, a simple movement with his hand, and suddenly I was transported. I didn't know where I was going, but everything around me seemed to guide me. I was floating as if the ground didn't exist, but at the same time, I felt I was being embraced, enveloped by something I couldn't see, but knew was good, something welcoming, and at the same time, immense. It was then that I entered a different place. It wasn't a place like any other. It was as if it were a giant room, where everything I had ever lived was unfolding before my eyes. A vision, but not just any vision. It was as if a great mirror had been placed in front of me. And in this mirror, I saw my entire life. I saw every moment, every step I took. And it wasn't just the big things I had done that appeared, but even the small ones, the ones I thought no one knew, those I kept to myself. I remembered the good things, the bad things, the smiles I gave, the times I didn't smile. I saw the mistakes, the wrong choices, and also the good decisions I made, the people I loved, the ones I hurt, the ones I helped, and those I perhaps didn't give the attention they deserved. Every piece of my story was there, clear as water, and it wasn't judgment, it wasn't criticism. There was no anger in Jesus's eyes. He just looked at me calmly, with a gentle smile. He didn't need to say anything, because everything was there, right in front of me. I realized that during life I always sought things I thought were important, but deep down they were just escapes from what really matters. And in this space where everything was shown so clearly, I understood life, true life, was in living with the heart, in connecting with love, with compassion. Jesus was there not to blame me, but to show me that there was always time to change, to start over. He was telling me with his eyes, "You can do differently, Jose. You can live with more love, more peace." And suddenly I found myself before something I never imagined, the opportunity to look at my life, not with the eyes of an ordinary man, but with the eyes of someone who has a second chance. I was still there, floating in that space of peace with the vision of my life unfolding before me. But then something else began to happen. I felt like a gentle breeze, the presence of something even greater, something that went beyond my own story, beyond everything I had lived. It was as if the universe itself was aligning around me. Jesus, with that calm and compassionate look, looked at me and calmly began to speak, not with words, but with a feeling so deep that it seemed to enter inside me. He showed me, not in a harsh or aggressive way, but with gentleness, that living is not simply existing as I had done until then. Living is not just spending the days working, eating, sleeping, living on autopilot as if the days were all the same. No, he showed me that living is much more than that. Living is understanding that we are here for a reason, and that reason is much greater than any daily task I performed. It was as if a veil was lifted from my eyes, and I finally began to see the greatness of all this. He made me understand that every moment of my life, every step I took, has a purpose, and that purpose was not just about what I did in my work or what I accomplished as a laborer. It was something deeper, something that transcended my daily routine. I saw clearly that each of us, no matter how simple, has a mission to fulfill, something that goes beyond our own understanding. And I, Jose Mauricio, ordinary laborer, had something great to do too. It didn't matter if the world didn't know my name, or if I hadn't achieved wealth or fame. What mattered was the eternal purpose I carried within me, a purpose that aligned with the reason for my existence, and with the love that, in fact, we all must spread. It was as if he had shown me an invisible road ahead of me, a road full of light that I would never have seen if I hadn't opened my heart to perceive what really matters. He didn't tell me exactly what my mission was, but he gave me the certainty that everyone has a purpose, and that by living with more love and more understanding, that purpose is revealed step by step. And then Jesus, with that look full of wisdom, told me something that was engraved deep in my soul. "Jose, you are here to live with an open heart, to serve, to love. Every small act of kindness, every smile, every gesture of compassion, all of this has an eternal purpose. It doesn't matter what you do, but how you do it." I stood there absorbing every word that was not spoken, but felt. And suddenly, A feeling of even deeper peace enveloped me. A feeling of even deeper peace enveloped me. Before continuing, just a request. Subscribe to the channel. This helps us a lot to continue. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. I knew it wasn't just a pause in my life. I was being called to something greater, something I hadn't understood until that moment, but now made complete sense. Life is not just about surviving. It's about fulfilling an eternal purpose that resonates beyond time, beyond death. While I was still reflecting on the words of Jesus, something new happened. A sensation of his life enveloped my entire being as if I were being embraced in a vast hug, yet so light it seemed endless. And then the vision of my life began to dissipate, and something even more surprising was revealed before me. Jesus, with his infinite calm, looked at me again. He seemed to understand the questions arising in my mind. Questions I hadn't even voiced aloud, but were screaming inside me. What happens after life ends? That was the doubt that tormented me. Even without realizing I had this fear. Then he began to speak, this time with a serene smile. "Jose, what do you think about death? What do you imagine happens to the soul after the end of physical life?" I hesitated, trying to remember everything I had ever heard about death. I was always told that after death, the soul might wander for a time without direction or purpose, lost in some undefined place. I thought death was something like a great mystery, where the soul went through an eternal wait, not knowing what would happen next. But Jesus looked at me with a gentle expression and replied in a way that seemed to touch the depths of my being. "There is no wandering after death, Jose. The transition is immediate. There is no void where you remain lost or aimless. When the soul leaves the physical body, it is immediately welcomed and directed to its rightful place." These words sounded like an absolute truth within me. There was no doubt, no uncertainty. I could feel the certainty in those words as a divine revelation. Death was not an end but a direct and purposeful transition. It was as if the soul were guided by invisible hands to where it should be, like a river following its course without losing its way. Jesus continued with a soft but firm voice. "The soul does not wander in the dark. On the contrary, it is immediately received in the spiritual plane, where it will find what is necessary for its learning and evolution. Those who dedicate themselves to love, compassion, and goodness will have a clearer path, guided by the light of the spirits that accompany them." At that moment, something dissolved within me. The fear of death, which had always silently accompanied me, dissipated like mist in the sun. I finally understood that there is no darkness or anguish beyond. There is no frightening void, no endless wait. Death, contrary to what I thought, is not a disconnection but an immediate connection to something greater, something that would embrace me. I began to realize that death is not a terrifying event, but a door that opens to a new journey, guided by love and understanding. The transition was direct, without delay, without suffering. It was a natural change like changing clothes, or a well-deserved rest, after a long day of work. And with that, I felt immense relief. The fear I had of death was replaced by a deep sense of peace. I knew now that when the time came, I would not be lost. There was a spiritual journey planned for all of us, and death was just the passage to that journey. "Do not fear, Jose," said Jesus with a welcoming smile. "You will never be alone, and the soul always finds its way, for it is guided by the light." I breathed deeply, feeling a lightness of this new truth invade my entire being. The peace I felt was beginning to transform into something new, something more urgent. As Jesus watched me with his eyes full of compassion, I realized there was something even deeper to understand. The sensation that took over me was no longer just tranquility but an awakening, as if something were calling me to act, to live differently. I looked at him almost speechless, but with a question in my soul that burned. "What do I do now, Lord? How can I live after everything I've seen and understood?" It was no longer about knowing what happened after death, but about how to live while still here on earth, with the time I had left. Jesus, with his infinite calm, approached and placed his hand on my shoulder. "Jose, the experience you are having is not just to bring comfort, but to awaken in you a sense of urgency. Time is precious, and every moment that passes is an opportunity to fulfill your purpose. It's about making a difference in the world around you." It's not just about existing, but about living with intention and a heart turned toward good. These words reverberated within me like a deep echo. I had always known deep down in my soul that there was something more to life, something beyond the daily routine, the worries and the challenges that consumed me. But I had never known how to find that something more until now, before Jesus. Everything seemed clear. "Jose," he continued with a look full of urgency and love, life is brief, and you have a role to fulfill. Every action, every thought, every word you convey to another person has an impact, a vibration that reverberates in the universe. What you do with the time you have now is what truly matters." I felt as if a curtain had opened before me, revealing a new perspective on life. It was no longer about living on autopilot, merely existing from one day to the next. It was about living consciously, being guided by a greater purpose in harmony with what is divine. But at the same time, there was a sense of urgency within me. I could no longer delay my transformation, could no longer wait to be a better person, to seek my true mission. Time was passing, and I knew that every second was a unique opportunity to grow spiritually, to serve others, and to contribute to the good in the world. I looked at Jesus with eyes full of gratitude, and also with a new determination. I understood, Lord. I can no longer live as before. I will seek my purpose and fulfill the mission given to me with the urgency you taught me. Jesus smiled, and I could see in his eyes a gleam of approval. "Yes, Jose. Now you know that living is not just breathing and waiting for time to pass. Living is transforming each moment, each choice into something that reflects the light and love you have received." When the vision began to dissipate, and I felt my physical body return, an immense sense of clarity took over me. I knew my life would never be the same. The fear I had of death no longer made sense because I knew the true urgency was in living with purpose here and now. The encounter with Jesus was not just a spiritual experience, but an awakening to the profound truth of life. I was no longer just a worker, an ordinary man. I was someone with a mission, with a divine purpose to fulfill. And this mission began immediately with every thought, every attitude, and especially with every action aimed at the good of others. The urgency was not just in death, but in life, and that was what I now understood. Every passing second should be lived meaningfully because in the end, the only thing that matters is the legacy of love, peace, and kindness we leave for the world. And so, with a renewed heart and an awakened soul, I returned to my life with the certainty that every step I took from then on would be a contribution to something much greater than I could imagine. If you liked it, don't forget to leave your like below. Also, comment on what touched you the most in this video. I love reading your comments, and of course, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news on this journey until the next video.